everyone. Nice to see you. I recognise some faces from the last time I was here. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you some perspectives on the future of the television market, and in particular why our business STV offers both profit and dividend growth potential. But let me first of all briefly introduce STV, because we're not necessarily a household name outside Scotland, nor indeed a global powerhouse, at least not yet. The simplest way to describe us is as the ITV of Scotland, but with go faster stripes, we like to think anyway. If you switch to button 3 on your TV set in Scotland, and you'll get STV, not ITV. Lots of familiar programming, the big soaps Coronation Street and Emmerdale, 9 o'clock dramas and the Saturday night entertainment, but also with comprehensive Scottish news, current affairs and regional programming representing all parts of the country. We're very much Scotland's commercial public service broadcaster. We also operate STV Player, a streaming service which has over 3/4 of the Scottish population signed up as a registered user and is available right across the UK. And we run Scotland's largest television production company, STV Studios, which has now grown to 24 creative labels following our recent acquisition of Greenbird Media, covering the full range of genres, making shows for an increasing number of broadcasters and streamers from our bases in Glasgow, London, Cardiff, Manchester and Belfast. But let's start with some actual telly. Here are some snippets of some things that hopefully some of you will recognise.
I want a family, not an institution.
Nicola Sturgeon announced her resignation as Scotland's First Minister.
How and when would you deliver independence?
This is now a murder investigation.
You okay, Mum? I'm always okay.
Evil people don't want to change or be redeemed.
Could you please explain to me why you let the most dangerous Soviet penetration agent this country's ever known leg it?
It's the truth!
You know, it's like having George Clooney around, doesn't it?
I would definitely say put your hand up, step forward and take part.
Our rivers and seas are facing challenges like never before. Find out how you can make a difference.
Great, so hopefully something there that you recognised. I'm going to completely gloss over the football score of last night and the rugby of Sunday. It's not my real accent. The first half of 2023 has seen us markedly accelerate the diversification of STV in what continues to be a tough economic climate for all businesses. We've delivered excellent revenue growth of over 20%, while seeing an expected group profit impact of 33% due to the weak linear advertising and rising costs, which are starting to ease somewhat as we move into the second half of the year. As an illustration of how far the business has progressed in the last 5 years, strong revenue growth in each of our key areas of digital and studios has comfortably offset the linear advertising revenue decline in the first half, with studios revenue almost quadrupling even before the positive effect of the recent Greenbird acquisition is felt in the second half. and digital revenue continuing to grow on the back of our new streaming partnership with ITV. On screen, our audience position remains very healthy. We had our biggest half year ever on STV Player, with streams up 25% and newsstrip registrations up by 2/3. And we retained our crown as Scotland's most popular peak time TV channel for the 6th first half in a row, growing our lead over BBC One. Total advertising revenues were down 14% from January to June, in line with our guidance, but Q3 is more encouraging and we expect the quarter to be up around 3 to 5%, driven by big events on STV like the Women's Football World Cup and the Men's Rugby World Cup. We're clearly still living in uncertain economic times though, and it's hard to call the outlook for linear advertising beyond Q3 as it's so dependent on macroeconomic sentiment. However, I can say two things very clearly. Firstly, that we're confident the market will bounce back decisively as the economy recovers, because we've seen this sort of cyclical dip many times before, and only television has the collective reach and mass scale that advertisers require to build their brands. And secondly, that when the linear ad market does recover, STV is very well placed to benefit. As a guide, every 1% upturn in total advertising for the year roughly translates into £500,000 of incremental profit for STV, which is clearly very material for us. That said, STV needs to be a business that can thrive in all economic climates. It's why we embarked on a proactive diversification strategy 5 years ago, and we're particularly encouraged that we now expect at least 60% of our 2023 operating profit to come from outside of traditional broadcasting, comfortably ahead of our target, and evidence that we're rapidly becoming a more resilient, balanced media business focused on growth. And it's against that backdrop that the board has recommended an interim dividend of 3.9 pence per share for the first half, in line with the same period in 2022. This is our diversification strategy and growth targets on a page. We've a clear and well understood plan that has delivered strong financial results in recent years, and that plan has 3 pillars. Firstly, building a world-class studio business, producing returning TV series for the biggest networks and global streamers. Secondly, driving our digital performance by becoming a leader in streaming through STV Player in Scotland and beyond. And thirdly, maximising the unrivalled strength of our broadcast business by maintaining our clear viewing and advertising leadership in our home market. 2.5 years ago, we announced ambitious targets to quadruple our studios revenue and double the size of our digital business by the end of this year. And I'm delighted to say that we're on track to exceed those targets. The linear advertising downturn means we're unlikely to hit the 20 million broadcast revenue target in Scotland, but overall we will comfortably exceed our key diversification metric of delivering at least 50% of our operating profit from new growth areas by the end of the year. And for context, in 2018, our non-broadcast earnings were only 18% of the total. Our KPIs also tell a story of continued strong momentum and progress in 2023 so far. In green, the immediate impact of the Greenbird acquisition in studios, with a total of 29 new programme commissions in the first half alone that will deliver later this year and next. And we now have 39 returning series across the enlarged group, compared with just 9 this time last year. In digital, all the key metrics are up: total streams, player exclusive content and active users. And STV's unrivalled leadership in broadcasting continues, with our all-time viewing share holding steady in a highly competitive market, and the number of new Scottish advertisers still at healthy levels. Moving on to the divisions, and I'll start with our studios business, which is growing at an increasingly rapid rate. We were already on track to double the size of STV Studios this year, and the recent Greenbird acquisition means we'll take an even bigger stride forward in terms of scale, profitability and creative firepower. We couldn't be more excited about the newly enlarged business, and the team have really hit the ground running. To reiterate the financial and strategic rationale for the deal, it's materially earnings enhancing and EPS accretive for our business this year, and crucially also margin enhancing for STV Studios. At a stroke, our in-house creative labels grow from 9 to 24, our returning series more than treble, and our STV Studios senior management team strengthens significantly through the addition of highly respected creative and commercial leaders from Greenbird. That added scale makes us one of the country's leading production groups and takes us much closer to our goal of becoming the UK's most successful nations and regions producer in an era of levelling up, where the centre of gravity in UK TV production continues to shift decisively away from London and the South East. With scale also comes much greater resilience as a production business. We're hearing a lot about the commissioning slowdown in the market at the moment, which is linked to wider economic uncertainty and very much a cyclical thing in our view. But the truth is that a group of 24 production companies with 39 returning series is far better placed to navigate a more challenging market than a smaller player. So in short, Greenbird is a transformative deal for us financially and creatively. It's right on strategy and it will accelerate our revenue and earnings diversification away from linear advertising and towards the growth areas of global content and IP ownership. The enlarged STV Studios will be a £70 million plus revenue business this year, made up of the 9 majority-owned labels you see on the screen and that are now part of the group. We're one of the very few production companies in the UK to make both scripted and unscripted shows, with an even balance across the two, meaning that our addressable market is all of the UK TV production spend, not just a subset of it. And we now have an incredible portfolio of returning series, which will make up nearly half of our revenues in 2023 and give us a strong head start each year in terms of financial performance. The remaining creative labels are 15 minority investments, providing significant strategic option value for our studios group over the next few years. The larger minorities on the left range from 25 to 40% stakes, and it's these companies that are most likely to move into meaningful profitability over the short to medium term. In some cases, there are prescribed routes for STV to consolidate, and in others, there are strong relationships and service agreements in place. But what this does, in simple terms, is give STV an exciting de-risked M&A strategy that should allow our studios business to scale even more rapidly without the need for large greenfield acquisitions. We will, in effect, be able to evaluate our M&A targets from close quarters before consolidating these businesses in success. We're also very focused on the international growth potential of our expanded studios division. Lego Masters has already been sold to over 20 territories, including China, South America and across Europe. And later this month, Series 4 of its US version will play on the Fox network in prime time. Our quiz format, Bridge of Lies, is on a similar trajectory, now sold to 15 territories worldwide, including a new Spanish version on the slide there, about to play on national broadcaster TVE. We're now developing a joined-up international strategy across the enlarged group to generate maximum value from our shows outside the UK, including potentially having the ability to produce or co-produce shows in key territories like the US and Europe. To finish this section, a reminder of the ambitious vision for studios and the key strategic objectives that underpin it: growing returning series, expanding customers in the UK and internationally, and a combination of organic and M&A-driven growth through our unique portfolio of majority and minority investments. In short, there's no ceiling to the potential growth of STV Studios over the coming years as we aim to continue to win market share in the UK and internationally. Turning now to digital, in the first half of 2023 has once again seen strong growth for our streaming service STV Player against all the key metrics. Our vision here is to be Scotland's leading advertising-funded streaming service, as well as a UK-wide free streaming destination. The simple goal is more people watching more content for longer, because we know that that translates into more financial success. New registrations were up 65% in the first half as we added over 400,000 new users. Active registered users were up 300,000 or 38%, and VIP users, those who watch the most STV content, were up 24%. That helped drive a 25% increase in both streams and total online consumption, all of which translated into a strong financial performance in the digital division. And you can see at the bottom there that we're on track to hit the 3-year stretching targets we set ourselves for the end of this year across users, streams and revenues. This chart shows our top digital titles of the year so far. In grey, our ever-popular network content. In purple, the preview content coming through the new streaming partnership with ITV. And in green, the acquired series that are exclusive to STV Player and that we don't show on linear television. You'll see that the top performer is that relatively new programme Brookside, which we acquired exclusively for STV Player and has been playing out from the start, releasing 5 new episodes every Wednesday. If we miss them by a minute, we get complaints. To our loyal fan base, it's been a huge success, eclipsing even Coronation Street in Emmerdale, with 65% of Brookside's viewing coming from outside of Scotland, helping to boost the pan-UK reach of the Player. Our new exclusive drama has also been working well, as expected, with 30 brand new shows premiered so far on the STV Player, up to 6 months ahead of their linear transmission. These new shows represented only 2% of all titles in the first half, but 11% of the viewing, with the top performer Irvine Welsh's Scottish thriller Crime with Dougray Scott. What's particularly noteworthy is how this preview strategy is changing consumption patterns amongst our audiences. Already, nearly a quarter of all STV drama viewing by the younger 16 to 44 demographic was done in the preview window in the first half, showing the potential of this new windowing strategy to attract and retain important audiences for STV. And under the terms of the recent deal with ITV, all this new content is paid for through advertising revenue shares in success. We don't pay for these programmes up front, reducing the risk to us and extending our favourable variable cost model into the digital side of the business. This slide clearly shows the commercial impact of the ITV deal, which has been very positive so far. We said that the rationale for outsourcing digital sales was to benefit from ITV's scale and pricing power as UK market leader, as well as their significant investment in new targeted, addressable advertising. And we're already seeing these benefits come through very clearly in our numbers. The chart on the left shows that our digital brand count is already up by 50% so far this year, broadening our revenue base and reducing repetition for our audience. Our average sales price is up even further in the first half by 55%, driving strong VOD revenue growth, but also allowing us to reduce the overall amount of advertising we show to viewers, improving their experience and driving longer-term loyalty amongst audiences. STV's price increase has also been underpinned by our launch on Planet V, the UK's second largest programmatic advertising platform after Google, which has enabled fully addressable advertising at scale on STV Player for the first time, with over 90% of our digital advertising now targeted using our own first-party registered user data. Alongside improving the content and commercial offer, continuous improvement of the STV Player product is vital to growing our streaming audience. Launching your own app onto a digital platform rather than just supplying content is a great way of securing more control, data and prominence, so you are in charge of the user experience, not the platform. The launch of our app into over 8 million Sky Q homes earlier this year was a big step forward strategically, and you can see how front and centre our brand is now alongside the likes of Netflix and the BBC iPlayer. And the great news going forward is that this public service prominence is set to be enshrined in primary legislation on all digital platforms through the UK government's new media bill, guaranteeing that STV content will be easily accessible everywhere for the long term. Turning finally to our broadcast business, and it's been another strong audience performance in the first half. There have been a few shrill headlines in recent weeks about broadcast viewing declines, but that's only against the artificial highs of COVID viewing, and the facts tell a different story of the enduring popularity and resilience of the terrestrial broadcasters. On the left, STV's top 3 dramas of 2023 are plotted against the top 3 from our 5 closest commercial competitors in Scotland: Channel 4, Channel 5, Netflix, Disney Plus and Amazon Prime. You can see that STV's top dramas, including favourites Unforgotten and Vera, are twice as big as all the others. The pie chart on the right shows the split of the top 500 programme episodes in Scotland by service in the first half. The terrestrial broadcasters were responsible for 98% of the most popular shows, with STV having 76% of them against BBC's 19%. And for those of you who haven't spotted the 0 on the slide, Netflix's share of those shows was 0%. This chart shows that STV was the most watched commercial channel in Scotland for 180 out of the 181 days in H1, only pipped on the 10th of June by the Man City Champions League final. And the boxes on the right show that STV's viewing position is strengthening further, with our lead over BBC One and ITV actually widening in the first half. Our audience performance translates into a strong position in the Scottish advertising market, where we remain the market leader by some distance. Total regional advertising was down 14% in the first half, but this does mask a much more resilient performance in Scottish SME advertising, which was down only 2% for the first 6 months. The driver of the bigger overall decline was the reduction in Scottish Government advertising as the COVID public health campaigns stopped, as we were expecting. And by comparison, the national linear advertising market was down 19% in the first half of the year. So that regional performance of -2 really was outperforming the wider UK market. You can see on the left-hand chart that our regional brand count has remained healthy in the first half of the year and throughout the recent advertising cycle. We've seen declines in local food, entertainment and finance categories, offset by gains in travel and transport, household equipment and retail. On the right, it's encouraging that we've now returned to pre-pandemic ratios of government to SME spend, making it much easier to gauge the underlying health of the market. And across the bottom, you'll see our advertising growth fund continuing to do its job in a tough market, making TV advertising more affordable and generating a healthy influx of new advertisers, the vast majority of whom go on to become repeat clients. Overall, we're seeing more encouraging signs in the local market, and we expect our regional advertising to continue to outperform national over the balance of the year. In terms of the outlook, while there's clearly still uncertainty, we can report an improving picture. In revenue terms, we're expecting to continue the very positive momentum of the first half and deliver a full-year revenue performance at least 25% ahead of last year. Total advertising revenue is expected to be up around 3 to 5% in Q3, but will be down for the full year. And we remain on track to exceed the 3-year revenue targets we set ourselves for digital and studios of 20 million and 40 million respectively. And in the case of studios, our full-year revenues are actually forecast to treble year-on-year to 70 million. In terms of operating profit, the impact of the linear advertising decline and cost inflation will mean full-year group adjusted operating profit will be down year-on-year as expected, though 50% of the cost inflation will be mitigated by savings across the business. We're also expecting a better H2 performance on the back of an improving ad market and profits in studios, boosted significantly by the acquisition of Greenbird, which will add material revenue and operating profit to the group in the second half. And on that front, we've reconfirmed our previous guidance from July of 6 to 6.5 million adjusted operating profit for the enlarged STV Studios division this year. Overall, we're now expecting to deliver at least 60% of STV's earnings from outside linear broadcasting in 2023, comfortably ahead of that 50% target. But that means new targets are required for the next phase of our diversification, which we'll confirm in due course. That's it. I'll leave you with that summary and our key message that the STV of 2023 is now a very different business to the one that we took on 5 years ago. More balanced, more resilient, more growth and delivery focused, all of which has created a strong platform for the next phase of our diversification.
Thank you for a very comprehensive presentation about the developments within your company. As an investor, I'm slightly more interested in the figures and the outcome, and I have a specific concern that I would like you to address. Okay. I note that you have just declared a 3.9% dividend, the 3.9 pence dividend, I beg your pardon, which is the same as the previous year, which, if we remember, inflation means you've actually gone back 10%. And even assuming that you matched last year, it would still be below where you were 3 or 4 years ago. So where you're pleased with progress over 5 years, an investor might be less so, looking at the fall in the share price and the fall in their dividends. The change of direction into becoming a more production-oriented business leads me to my primary question, which is that there are only 24 hours in a day in which one can listen to or observe television. And it seems to me that pouring a greater amount of content out there means that the amount of viewing per content element is going to fall down. And I can't see how you drive additional revenue on that basis.
Wow.
Or additional profit, I should say.
I think that was about 6 questions. I'll maybe catch up with you separately afterwards. I think from a content perspective, we have been in a boom over the last couple of years as coming out of COVID when there wasn't any production. We saw maybe 8, 9, 10% growth. We're not expecting that to continue, but we foresee long-term growth in content demand. 2%, 3% per annum, and it's a £9 billion business or pound market. Our revenue will be 70 million this year. We've got aspirations to grow to be something like 100 million, 10 million profit, 10% margin in 2025. We are still tiny in that context. So what we are doing is winning market share at the minute. And as we look forward, there's no point in saying anything other than linear television is in slow, long-run decline. It absolutely is. It's much more resilient, as hopefully some of the charts showed. It's much more resilient than people give it credit for, but we need to be proactive and try and actively move some of that audience into our higher margin digital business, but by having a strong presence in production and programme production, that's owning IP, which can be sold for many, many years into the future across many platforms and is platform agnostic, if you like. So that's one of the principles around it.